Hello, football fans, and welcome to episode number 32 of View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, we review the action from the weekend's football, including another 3 points for Man City and Liverpool to maintain their neck-and-neck race for the title. Lucas Moura hits a hat-trick for Spurs, and Pogba's 2 penalties are enough for United. In the EFL, we say goodbye to Ipswich as they are relegated from the Championship. Sunderland and Coventry serve up a 9-goal thriller, and Lincoln secure promotion from League Two. Pete is back with another teaser, and we've got an update on the predictions challenge from the weekend. With relegation confirmed for Huddersfield and Fulham, our special topic this week is around the difficulty in getting back into the Premier League after relegation.
Hello and welcome to View from the Sideline podcast. This is episode 32. Rich is here.
Hi Chris, how are you doing? Good evening to you.
Good evening. You okay?
I'm good, yeah. I am good. Good, thank you.
That's all right then. Good scores at the weekend for you, not so much for me. But we will discuss that a bit later on. But I believe you got another teaser from Pete.
Yeah, Pete has given us another teaser. Yeah, he's got his own little segment. Bless him, he loves it. So this is for you this week, Chris, because I know the answer to this one.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how it came about, how I found out the answer, but I think I just asked him and he told me, which was a bit silly, yeah. But I didn't know it. But I do now. So Pete's teaser this week is: which 3 teams have won the Premier League but have also been relegated from the Premier League? Okay. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, yes, it does make sense.
So 3 teams that have won it and also been relegated.
I think I've got 2. I'll have to.
I think that's where I was. I had 2, and then the third one I could not get, but I'm sure you will.
Yeah, no, the third one's causing me a bit thinking. Never mind. I'll have a think about whilst we go through. But
yeah, we'll come back to that at the end.
So we'll go into the Premier League review. We'll start off at Leicester versus Newcastle. A bit of a strange one. This obviously after a good start for Brendan Rodgers as Leicester manager, it kind of all came undone a little bit on a Friday. And I think Newcastle with the win there probably have confirmed their safety. I would have said. But what did you think?
Well, I'm not sure if it was an upset or not, to be honest. I think it was one of those games that you probably would have expected Leicester to win it the way that they've been playing recently. But Newcastle aren't a bad side. I'd probably agree with you about that they are probably safe now.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cardiff Brighton is going on as we're recording. Cardiff are currently 1-0 up, but we'll come on to that later on. But Newcastle are. Even if Cardiff do win tonight, Newcastle are still 7 points clear, with only 4 games to go.
Yeah.
So although you'd expect them to be safe, but it was a strange game, I thought, because they're I kind of put them in the same bracket, really. They've both got an awful lot of potential. Leicester's form's been a lot better than Newcastle's has of late. I think that was Leicester's first defeat in 4 or 5, something like that. And they're 7th in the table at the moment, so yeah. It was a bit of a surprise, but it could have gone either way, really.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Newcastle played well, but yeah, both. I think Leicester have done, like you said, a lot better recently, and I think they do deserve to be in the position they're in at the moment. I think 7th. I think between them, Wolves and Watford, I think it's going to be quite close, but.
I think Newcastle have clearly got a bit more to play for than Leicester had.
Yeah.
So maybe that was something. I think the interesting thing with Newcastle was, especially that I know the talk of a buyer coming back in for the club in the summer sort of kicked up again. Whether Benitez will stay, because there seems to be a bit They seem to be at loggerheads a little bit, where Benitez wants sort of reassurances around transfers and funds and things like that.
Yeah.
And any new potential buyer wants reassurances possibly around his contract and things like that. So it'd be interesting to see what happens at Newcastle, but history will probably tell us that not a lot will happen, and then next season will probably be quite similar to this one. So we'll see. But
cool.
Yeah, strange game, but a good one.
We'll move on to the Tottenham Huddersfield game. One thing just quickly, because I'm sure you've got a few things on this one, but I don't think there would have been anyone out there that would have seen anything other than a Tottenham win. I think even in our predictions, I went for 3-0, you went for 4-0, which I think kind of sums up the confidence that we sort of have in Huddersfield at the moment. And unfortunately for them, it just seems to be getting worse and worse. As each week goes on, they seem to be conceding one more goal than the last week. So, but saying that, obviously, Lucas Moura getting a hat trick. Who needs Harry Kane, eh?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, just on your first point, I think apart from the win at Wolves, I think the last time Huddersfield, I'm just checking their results. So yeah, I mean, their last two wins, they got a 2-0 win away at Wolves on the 25th of November last year. And then they beat Wolves at home in February.
Rich, Barcelona have just scored.
The
little magician Lionel Messi has got the goal. So.
Possibly game over.
Yeah, potentially.
But we'll keep you posted on that one throughout the record. Sorry to cut you off there, Chris.
I'll cut you off.
So yeah, I mean, Huddersfield's last two wins have both came against Wolves. Apart from a 0-0 draw against Cardiff, in amongst that, they've lost every game. So yes, I agree with you that no one really expected Huddersfield to go to Spurs and win, whether Harry Kane was playing or not. I do think that once Spurs broke them down and got the first goal, and it was a good goal. If you haven't seen it, Wanyama is a good finish.
Yeah.
Probably not the sort of finish that he's known for.
He took it round someone, didn't he? And then
yeah, it's a good finish. It was it's sort of a Lampard-esque run into the box and a decent finish. So yeah, no one probably expected anything other than a Spurs win. I think the two late goals sort of put a bit more of a gloss on it than maybe there should have been. It's difficult to sort of review Spurs in a game like that, because they've just come off the Champions League win against Man City. They've got the game against Huddersfield, which I think whichever team Spurs had put out, they would probably win it.
Yeah.
And then obviously they're going into the second leg tomorrow night. Obviously Spurs wanted the 3 points to keep the push for the top four, but it was a strange game. I mean, Huddersfield had a few chances. They could have scored and probably should have done. But Lucas Moura was on fire. I mean, all three of his goals were good finishes.
Was probably my favourite, I think.
Yeah, it was a great finish, and he hasn't done himself any harm to get into the squad tomorrow.
Oh, no. I think he'll start. I think it'll be the similar sort of squad.
Yeah, I think maybe.
I don't know if Llorente will start. I'm not sure if Llorente will start, but
no, I don't think he will.
I think you could definitely use Son up top. You could even have two up top with Moura and Son.
I think Alderweireld will probably come in for Foyt at the back.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Wanyama will play. I don't think he'll start, but we'll see. But I mean, it was a comprehensive win, another win at the new stadium. I've got my programme. If you haven't seen it, Chris, I know you're very jealous. I've read it and it's gone back in the protective packaging.
Yeah,
it has. I have
back
read
in the
it,
secret box in the chest.
Yeah,
under lock and key, guarded by two
goblins in the cupboard. But I mean, I'm falling in love with that stadium more and more every time I see it. It just looks absolutely amazing.
We'll move on.
So yeah, a comfortable win.
Speaking of comfortable wins, Brighton versus Bournemouth.
Crikey!
Oh.
I didn't see that coming.
Oh,
I didn't see that
Chris
coming.
Hughton after the game, he said it was the worst performance he had seen since becoming Brighton manager, and I really cannot disagree. But Barcelona have scored again. It's 2-0. Messi scored again. 2-0, 20 minutes.
He's getting sacked in the morning.
But yeah, so I think I know Brighton were awful in this game, but that two-footed lunge by Knockhart, that was just a horrendous tackle. You just know what he was thinking at that point. I know they were 2-0 down at the time, but you know, he did not do any favours for anyone for Brighton that
No,
day.
he didn't. But I'm not. To be honest, the way Brighton have been, or the way they were playing in that game, I'm not sure if he did stay on the pitch. I mean, I'm not sure it would have been 5-0, but I'm not sure what's happened to Brighton. If you look through their sort of previous results, I mean, they've got a few wins scattered here and there, but there are more losses. And I think that if you were to turn around maybe 2 or 3 months ago and say going into the last 3 or 4 games of the season, it's going to be Brighton are going to be the team that are battling against Cardiff for relegation, you'd be pretty surprised.
And the game tonight is,
Brighton I mean, we may as well.
Cardiff, you'd expect them to turn up to this game, despite the result of the weekend. The thing is, they will have a game in hand over Cardiff, I believe, because I believe Cardiff have actually played one more than them. So.
Yeah, they have, but the way Brighton are playing at the moment, are you really confident that they're going to put the 3 points on the board?
I think Cardiff pretty difficult running as well.
Yeah, they have, but I mean, I completely agree with you about tonight. I mean, Brighton at home, that used to. It's a tricky game. I mean, I'm sure you remember Chelsea going down there, but I remember Spurs going down there and scraping wins and sort of by the odd goal here and there. And it happens to a lot of the big sides that go down to Brighton. It's normally a difficult place to go. And I mean, I think you can't say that neither team have got anything to play for. This is your definition of a 6-pointer in football, I think.
Oh yeah.
Cardiff get the 3 points tonight. They're only 2 points behind. That's one win. And the way Brighton are playing at the moment, like I say, you can't assume that they're going to. At the same time, you can't assume that Cardiff aren't going to take points against Liverpool. I mean, you never know.
No.
That they're fighting for their Premier League survival. So I was just really disappointed with Brighton.
Take nothing away from Bournemouth though. They were awesome. They were brilliant.
5 different goal scorers as well, which you don't see that very often.
When they got the ball in the box, there was at least 2 or 3 men at a time, like literally queuing for the goal. It's just
Brighton were poor defensively. I know. I did notice from Bournemouth starting lineup, obviously what we were talking about last week, that Begovic was dropped. Arthur Boruc was back in goal, which didn't really surprise me, especially after last week's performance.
Didn't really have a lot to do, did he?
No, he didn't. But I mean, you've got when you're a manager, you're being interviewed post-match. I mean, you can kind of say anything you want, really, and I do kind of agree with Eddie Howe. And I agree with Chris Hughton as well. I mean, Brighton were awful, but you can't take anything away from Bournemouth in the respect of how well they played and how bad they made Brighton look. I mean, Bournemouth obviously contributed to the fact that Brighton was so poor. And Knockhart, again, the sending off is just ridiculous. You could when he walked past, you could
see it,
when he was going down the tunnel past Chris Hughton, you could almost feel him thinking, I'm not going to make eye contact. I hope he doesn't say anything to me. If I can just get down the tunnel, then I'm sort of out of harm's way. But yeah, a great win for Bournemouth. They're pretty much, well, they're definitely safe, aren't they?
Oh yeah,
really?
Definitely. Yeah.
10 points clear. I mean, not mathematically, but they're 10 points clear of Cardiff. So you'd think Bournemouth would be all right, and they'll be there. They'll be there Premier League next year. So they'll take some scalps, I'm sure.
Okay, so next up is the Southampton Wolves game. Southampton playing really, really well here, and Redmond getting on the score sheet twice, and obviously Shane Long scoring as well. Not often he scores.
Do you know that's the first time in 3 years? So this is a Premier League striker. First time in 3 years he's scored in back-to-back games. Shane Long.
What, Shane Long?
Yeah, it's the first time in 3 years. Bearing in mind he hadn't scored a goal for a year, and I think he's got 3 or 4 this season.
Not a great return, though, is it?
No, it's not. It's not
You'd
at all.
expect better.
Again, the fact that it's the first time in years that he's gone back to back. This was a strange game for me.
Yeah,
it was a strange game.
Weird to see Wolves vulnerable as well at the back, because they've been quite well. They've done quite well at the back this season, but I don't know whether it was still in their heads about their Wolves hangover at the weekend. Yeah,
I mean, I think that I did hear this said during the week that the loss to Watford in the semi-finals probably still having an effect on them. But I kind of look at it the other way, and I think that I would want my team to go out and move beyond that and sort of get over that and then forget about it. I mean, I know it's difficult, but I thought that Saints are probably, I know, again, they're not mathematically safe. If the teams above them aren't, they're not going to be. But I think Saints will now be okay. I was just a bit disappointed. I think I went for a Wolves winning that one on the predictions, but
it just looked like that they just weren't that bothered. I think
maybe
it was just odd. Anyway,
I mean they've got nothing to play for now, Wolves, apart from pride. But I mean, first, I know they're on exactly the same points as Leicester, so they're only separated by goal difference. Wolves do have a game in hand, but first season back in the Premier League, if you were Wolves and you finished 7th, I think that's a huge achievement. The established top 6, you're probably not going to break into that ever, I don't think. But for Wolves to finish 7th would be great. But fair play to Saints, so they're playing well. So
before we go into the Fulham game, Ronaldo has scored for Juventus. So Messi has scored twice, and Ronaldo has scored once tonight.
So it'll be Barca, Liverpool, and Spurs, Juventus. 2 tasty semi-finals.
City, Juventus is correct. Yeah, sorry. Anyway,
you don't know.
Fulham Everton game, not too much, but again, Everton nowhere near their best. But Fulham probably having one of their better performances of the season, but it's just a little bit too late. Everton,
this was a strange one for me. It's kind of like Fulham, don't start playing once you're already relegated. But maybe that's what they needed.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it was the expectation of the relegation being lifted that made them play the way they did. And Everton, the way they've been, 3 wins on the bounce, and then
they've beaten Chelsea and Arsenal, and now they've just gone to Fulham and lost.
Absolutely. I heard, I can't remember. It might have been on social media, but I did read that someone had an accumulator over the weekend for it was worth I don't know £700-800 or something, and it was Everton were the only team that let them down. And I think you probably would have had it as a banker for Everton to win, especially where they've been playing. But yeah, fair dues. First win for Scott Parker. Doesn't really do an awful lot for Everton.
Team, does it?
No, not really. No, unfortunately, you're getting into the realms where you've got these dead rubber games.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's literally, I'd say that the race for 3rd and 4th is probably the most exciting thing about I know you got 1st and 2nd, but I don't know.
It's all at the top end. It's all at the top end.
6,
I think,
See what happens. But anyway, the Burnley Cardiff game. Neil Warnock is not having much luck with the referees at the moment. I personally thought that they probably should have had 2 penalties in this game. I thought although I thought it was handball. I know that he came out after the game then and said that there wasn't a lot he could have done as it was that close. And then the foul on the Cardiff player as well. I think is it Gunnarsson? I think it is.
Gunnarsson, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a penalty.
Yeah.
I just.
I mean, I just to plug the website very quickly, Chris. So we've got a new blog. I'm sure you know this. It's our website. We've had a new blog go on today, which is about refereeing and who would want to be a ref. And in the blog,
you done an interview with
yeah, well, no, but to be honest, when I wrote it, I used an example of the Chelsea game, not anything against you, Chris, but. And I think that's almost followed over into the Cardiff game. So I don't think it was a handball, personally. I think the second one was a foul. But on the handball, I don't want to change your mind, but
no.
I just think that if you're talking about Danny Rose against City during the week, if that is a penalty because he is making his body bigger than is natural. And if the ball strikes your hand, it then becomes a penalty. If you use that logic, then the handball, I can't remember who the Burnley player was, the defender, but then surely if you use the same logic, then that is also a handball because his arms are at the side of his body and it's hit his hand. Therefore, he's making his body bigger. So this is, but I personally don't think that's a penalty because how do you expect him to get his hand out of the way? I mean, there's almost something to say that it's ball to hand, but
this is the thing.
I don't know.
With
It's
VAR
so difficult.
coming in, is this because it got overturned, didn't it? That was the one that got. Was that? It was that one that got overturned because the linesman
it was.
Yeah, he gave it.
Yeah,
and
the linesman gave it, but I don't know how it was overturned because the linesman gave it. I guess it's because the referee has the final decision.
Yeah. Warnock was not happy there.
No, he wasn't. But I think it's more the second one. But I mean, I don't know. It's so difficult. It's so difficult. And that handball, if you take that to VAR, is, and it's no different to the Danny Rose one. It's an interpretation. There's no letter of the law that says that's a handball.
So you say, obviously, going back to the Chelsea game and the Burnley game at the weekend. Although they probably should be getting one or two of these decisions, they still have to keep playing. And, they switched off again against Burnley for the second goal. They completely switched off. And what I'm trying to say is that although they aren't getting these decisions, they still have to keep going. That it just seems like that those two games in particular where let's say the referee has probably got it wrong in one or two instances, they still should be carrying on with the game until the full-time whistle, then have your grievances then.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The only sort of slight argument I would put against that, and to use both games as an example, if you look at the Chelsea game, so they should have had a penalty at 1-0. If you're 2-0 up against Chelsea, regardless of whether the equaliser was offside and the sending off and all sorts of things like that, if you're 2-0 up against Chelsea, your mindset is completely different than you are if it's 1-1, you're at home and you're coming up to 90 minutes. And it's exactly the same with the Burnley game. If you're 1-1 away at Burnley in with like 5-10 minutes to go, your mindset is completely different than it is if you're 1-0 down, because there's no need to chase the game. Your tactics will be different. And I completely agree with you. They did switch off for the second goal. To be honest, I think they switched off for the first one. I mean, sort of Chris Wood just sort of ghosted in and had a free header. But I think that there's a lot of psychological sort of impacts on this, I think, where you're not getting the decisions, you desperately want the points. So I get what you mean, but I do think there's an element of how you go about the game. And I personally, I don't buy this whole it evens itself out as well, because I'm not sure where these.
I don't buy that.
I don't think it's anything specifically against Cardiff. I don't think that for 1 second. No. But it is not helping them. It's just not helping them. I think Was it West Ham they played earlier in the season as well at home? Well, it was relatively recently, and they had probably the most blatant penalty you've ever seen, and it wasn't awarded. Yeah. And I think they went on to lose 3 or 4-1 or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Go to the website. Anyone listening who's got a view, go on the website and read the blog, because I mean, officials are human at the end of the day, and they're going to get stuff wrong. I'm not convinced VAR is going to clear it up because it's an interpretation. So,
Man United, West Ham. Speaking of penalties, thoughts on. So, in my eyes, I thought that the first one, I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought it was on the line. I don't think it was inside, and I don't really think it was that much of a bad tackle anyway. And the second one,
no,
I thought Martial was offside.
He was offside.
He
was offside. I don't think the awarding of the penalties is the talking point in this one. I completely agree with you. I think the first one is borderline. I think if they hadn't given it, you wouldn't be surprised. And the second one,
yeah.
Sorry, you carry on. I
was just going to say I thought West Ham played quite well.
I agree.
I didn't think Man United were that great. Without the penalties, they didn't really look like that they were creating a lot. They looked quite wobbly at the back, especially obviously the goal. De Gea's throw out was terrible.
Lloris would never do that, would he? Yes.
Anderson was free at the back post for his goal. Antonio, should have probably scored, but De Gea made a really, really good save. I thought West Ham were quite. I watched the game. I thought they were quite unlucky. I thought, Man United were in the game in spells, but definitely second half West Ham at 1-1 looked the more threatening, I would say, and I would say that the penalty probably came against the run of play. So, but he was definitely offside.
He was offside. Do you know what, Chris? I couldn't agree with you more. I think at 1-1, I was really surprised West Ham didn't win that game.
Yeah. They had chances.
Antonio hit the bar. I mean, De Gea's save was out of this world, but West Ham still had chances. The second penalty, he is offside. And do you know the thing that really annoyed me here, and I've got nothing against Man United, is Felipe Anderson's first goal in the first half. How on earth that was given offside, I've got no idea. And I don't want to turn this into a podcast like bashing officials and stuff.
It's the referee podcast.
Yeah, and I don't want to keep plugging the blog that's on the website, but if anything, that was one of the reasons why it seemed like a really relevant topic. I think there was a lot of discussion over the weekend about the officials, and it baffles me how you can go from Cardiff Chelsea, where he's blatantly offside, but they don't see it. But then you can flag something offside because you think he's offside by. I know a player is either offside or they're not. There's no in between. They're either offside or they're not. But you can also flag someone offside by literally like an inch. If you can see that detail to flag someone offside by such a small margin, how is missing someone who's offside by 2 or 3 yards so difficult? That's what I don't get. But
I know.
As a game of football, if I was West Ham, I'd be disappointed. If I was United, I think I'd got away with one there. Yeah.
Well, Palace, Man City next.
I can feel myself ranting about referees, Chris. You're going to have to rein me in. Now Everton are playing pretty well. I've got nothing to rant about.
Oh, didn't play that well at the weekend.
It's going to have to be a fit. No, I can't go back now.
I think
I've praised them too much.
City, they did what was needed to be done. They did play very well. You'd say it was probably a potential banana skin for Man City. So they lost early. I think they've lost to Palace the last 2 games they've played against them, haven't they? I saw somewhere. But Raheem Sterling, what a season he's having at the moment. Like, he's definitely one of
Well, you saw the old and new Sterling in that one where he missed was almost an open goal, wasn't it?
yeah.
From 6 or 7 yards. He used to do a lot of that, but
it's
then he goes and scores his first goal, which was an amazing finish.
yeah.
This is going to sound pretty maybe controversial, but I actually thought that City being away to Palace was a harder game than Liverpool being at home to Chelsea. Nothing against Chelsea.
I'd agree.
But you kind of knew the way Chelsea were going to set up, etc.
Yeah.
And I did think that the Palace would be the bigger test out of those two games.
And our mate Milivojevic. He scored, but it wasn't a penalty.
But I've got two questions about him.
It was a free kick, wasn't it?
Yeah. Is he capable of hitting a moving football? That's my first question.
This is going to sound really bad, but in American football, he's the kicker, isn't he?
That's my second question. Oh. He is special teams.
He's special teams, yeah. Do you think he trains on his own? He just trains from the penalty spot.
I think he should be purely brought on for dead ball situations and nothing else. I'm sure. Do you know what? When he scored, I was actually keeping an eye out for him to hit a moving football in normal play because I've never seen him do it. I didn't realise he was a free kick taker, to be honest. But I suppose
he probably isn't, mate. He probably just.
What's that? That's 11.
Setting his range.
The weird thing is, I think he's scored 11 or 12 goals now, and apart from the free, I'm sure the other one's with his head. I don't think he's scored a goal from a move.
Scored open play with his foot.
I don't think he has. I don't think he has. That's a hell of a stat.
I'm gonna get hold of him, man.
I told you, he's your cheeky sort of £2 steak.
Name, though, mate. That's the problem. How am I supposed to get hold of him if I can't spell his name? Milivojevic. I'll get there. Anyway,
we just call him the penalty king or the dead ball king.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, not surprised City won. No. They deserved it. Palace, they're sort of in that bracket of teams, I think, where all bar mathematical that they're safe. So
they've done this season, Palace.
Yeah, they have. They have, and I know Roy Hodgson was one of those ones that I thought you could absolutely make a case for him being in like any manager of the year conversations, because if you think about where Palace were when he went in there and where they are now, I mean, they're not pulling up trees and sort of pushing for Europe, but
he's a steady choice.
He is. They are as steady and as established in the Premier League as they come, I think. So. Yeah, he's doing a good job.
Right, I've been putting this off far too long. Liverpool versus Chelsea. The thing for me...
What a goal.
Yeah.
What a goal.
I can't even be angry at him because that's a good goal.
What a goal. Do you know what? I just say one thing and you can lead on this one.
Yeah.
When he hit it, the first time I saw it, I thought the keeper's got to do better there. That was my initial thought, to score from that angle, that far out. The keeper's got to do better. But the more I watched it,
I think it was just the power behind it.
I just thought if you got your hand in the way of that, it would come off. It would detach from your arm. That was like a laser guided, unbelievable goal.
Well, let me start. So the kickoff was at 4:30. The team news comes in at 3.
Good analysis, Chris, to tell us the kickoff time.
Yeah,
good analysis there.
Well, there's a story behind it.
Okay.
I checked my phone at 3:30 because the teams always come out an hour before kickoff. I looked down at the team, and there's no striker on there. So straight away from that. I already know how we're going to try and play this game, and probably for the first half, it kind of worked. But Liverpool soon sussed it out, and second half, they just dominated. Albeit, we probably should have scored twice. Hazard hitting the post, which is very unlike him, and the cross that came in, he he should have done better. Could have made it 2-2, but it's just I didn't expect to win. To be honest, at half time I thought the best we could probably do was a draw, but he brought Higuain on, and it was like he's so slow. I can't understand why he seemed to slow the game down.
Chris is finally seeing the light with Higuain. I just got one question for you, Chris, and this is something that puzzles me sometimes. And I had this conversation during the week with a Liverpool fan, strangely enough, and I don't know. I don't think you could say this about Spurs, but if I'm going to play Liverpool and I'm Chelsea, or I'm any sort of top 6, maybe top 8 club. Yeah. If I'm going to Anfield to play Liverpool, is it not the case where the best way to combat Liverpool is to do what they do to you, to go out and attack them?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would have done.
If you think that the players that Chelsea have got, Hazard, Willian, even Giroud or Higuain, I'm not Higuain's greatest fan, as you know, but if you're putting the emphasis on making them have to defend and they haven't got the ball to attack you, is that not the best form of defence? And I kind of think that when Spurs went there last week, I think we sort of gave it I didn't expect to take anything away from Anfield, to be honest. No. But I think at least we gave it a go. When you look at Mourinho, when he took United there and it was park the bus, I don't get why teams go to Anfield to park the bus.
This didn't really make a lot of sense, to be honest.
Chelsea didn't park the bus, but I would have just expected a little bit more from them. I mean, and ultimately, it takes Salah's goal out of it. Mane's goal, I mean, where the defenders were, I mean, they were just non-existent. I think anyone could have scored that.
I don't think it helped first half, where we lost Rudiger.
No, I agree.
Kind of changed. You see, he's been by far one of our best players this season.
Yeah, Rudiger. I don't know what you think of it, but there was a lot of pundits saying that Sarri doesn't like to play Christensen and Luiz together because they're too similar. I don't know what you think about that. But
I think they're probably yes and no, really. I definitely say Luiz is more of your cautious sort of choice. Like he's a good defender, but you know, sometimes you really do think because the bit where Salah dived, there was contact.
He didn't get booked for that. No, I don't think. I'm not sure there was. I think that was a blatant dive. I think he should have got booked for that.
But it's.
But then is it not a penalty?
Well, yeah. I thought there was contact, to be fair, but I think it's the way he goes down. I think. You kind of...
But I that's what sometimes I don't get with referees. Yeah. We're going back onto referees. That's either a penalty or a yellow card.
It's those sorts of tackles that he makes. You kind of have your heart in your mouth. And you're like, ooh, you know, he goes in sometimes and he just either completely misses the ball or just goes through the player. You know, it's kind of his style, isn't it?
I don't know. I know what you mean, but I kind of think it was. I think it was easier than it should have been for Liverpool. To be honest, I think that Chelsea could have put up much more of a fight. I just absolutely not just Salah's part in his goal, but I absolutely loved the ball from Van Dijk, where he's got the ball sort of in and around the centre circle. He looks up, he sort of pings a 20-25 yard ball on a sixpence to Salah. One touch, he sort of drives and then shoots. It's such a good goal. Those two bits, the sort of the pass and the finish were unbelievable. And I think I don't want to dwell on it, but I almost think it's karma for sort of what happened with the Chelsea fans and the video about Mo Salah.
Watford Arsenal.
I'm not getting into it because we all know it's wrong. But it's almost definitely just like a bit of karma, and he's
they're not really fans, are they? That's the problem.
Well, unfortunately, they're associated with the club, and it's almost just sticking two fingers up to them.
It kind of they were back. They didn't get into the game, which is
Well, yeah, rightly so. But yeah, okay, let's
anyway.
move on.
Watford, Arsenal. Two things in this one. Arsenal, even though they were playing against 10 men last night, it still didn't look like that they were playing against 10 men. They made much hard work of that game last night. Ben Foster.
He's no Edison, is he?
Yeah,
it was a strange game.
Then a minute later, Dini's getting sent off. So he's kind of. But even then, I don't think Arsenal played that well.
No, I don't know what you thought. Obviously, both our teams are involved in sort of the race for the top four. But I looked at this one and actually thought I think Watford could do us a favour here. I think Watford.
I thought Watford were going to win that.
Yeah, I did. But I agree with you. I don't think Arsenal looked great. I think that it's an away win for them, which they haven't been getting a lot lately. But it's not a performance that's filling me with confidence for them. But
no.
Yeah, so a strange one, but 3 points for them. They're now up into fourth. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with them.
The game tonight as well. So like we've
2-0. There's another goal.
Cardiff. Oh, they've just scored.
Cardiff have just gone 2-0 up.
Dear. Well,
points
for them.
Yeah, well, at least they're giving it a go.
Not a good week to be a Brighton fan.
No.
Anyway, so that was the Premier League review, and we'll go straight into the EFL, where I believe we've got some relegation news in the Championship.
We have, yeah. After weeks and months of talking about it, there is a relegation. But we'll start at the top. So Norwich remain top. They're 4 points clear. They picked up a 1-1 draw away at Wigan. That was on Sunday afternoon. Leeds are in second. They picked up all 3 points, beating Sheffield Wednesday 1-0 at home. That was in the late kick-off on Saturday evening. Meaning Sheffield United remain in third. They're only able to take a point in a 1-1 draw at home to Millwall, despite leading for most of the game. And then I think there was a penalty miss, and then Sheffield United had a man sent off, and then they ended up drawing 1-1. West Brom are in fourth. They beat Preston 4-1, and Aston Villa are in fifth, picking up their fifth win in a row, beating Bristol City 2-1. Bristol City, despite that defeat, they do still hold on to the last playoff place in sixth, but they're now only 1 point ahead of Middlesbrough in seventh and 2 points ahead of Derby in eighth. Both teams closed the gap with wins at the weekend. It's like the final playoff place it seems to be the one that's up for grabs. There's 3 or 4 teams that are sort of in with a shout, and some big teams, Middlesbrough and Derby. But I'm not. Where have Villa come from? They were mid-table for a lot of the season, and they just seem to be putting win after win after win together. And now they're pretty consolidated in the playoffs. So it'd be good to see. I mean, you could have Leeds, Villa, sort of Derby, Middlesbrough, and Norwich back in the Prem next season. So playoffs will be good come the end of the season. So as we said, at the bottom, it's all over for Ipswich. Relegation was confirmed for them on Saturday. They only got a point in a 1-1 draw with Birmingham, which was not enough to keep their slim hopes alive.
Not a bad result, really, is it?
No, it's not. But I think even if they had won, it was inevitable. And it looks as though Bolton may be joining them shortly. They lost 4-0 away at Derby. Bolton are now 10 points from safety with only 4 games to play. But I think that's only half the story with Bolton, really. There's a lot of stuff with financial and sort of winding up orders going on. So hopefully they'll stay in business, but it'll probably be in League One. Rotherham, they occupy the final relegation place. They did pick up a point in a 2-2 draw away at Stoke, and that was after being 2-0 down. Not sure what's going on with Stoke this year. I had them to win that league. Shows what I know. Millwall and Wigan, they're only 2 points clear of the relegation zone and both drew at the weekend. Reading managed to pick up maximum points in a 2-1 win at home to Brentford to ease their relegation fears, and they're now 4 points clear of Rotherham. So Reading have put a bit of breathing space between them and the relegation zone. League One, Luton remain top despite losing their record-breaking unbeaten run. They lost 3-1 away at Charlton, but they're still 5 points clear of Barnsley, who beat Fleetwood 4-2. A victory which took Barnsley back into second and into the automatic promotion places above Sunderland, who were involved in what must be the game of the day. A 9-goal thriller which saw 9 different goal scorers. That is unreal. 9 different goal scorers, and Coventry took all 3 points with a 5-4 win. I don't think anyone could have predicted that outcome. Portsmouth, Charlton and Doncaster all won at the weekend to maintain their place in the playoff positions. Peterborough are the biggest threat outside of the playoffs. They're 5 points behind Doncaster with a game in hand, and there is then a 10-point gap to Charlton in 5th. So it kind of looks like Doncaster, Peterborough for the last playoff place. At the bottom, it doesn't look good for Bradford, who are rock bottom and lost again at the weekend, 3-2 away at Bristol Rovers. They're now 9 points from safety with only 4 games remaining. Walsall are second bottom, and they lost again, which was their 5th defeat in a row, losing 2-1 away at Accrington. Southend also lost at the weekend and are in 22nd. Wimbledon fill the last relegation place, but did pick up a point in a 0-0 draw away at Oxford. At the bottom, there's still only a 6-point gap between 15th and 23rd, so there's still all to play for. It's crazy. And I do think about Wimbledon. We used to speak about them being rock bottom every week, and now they're sort of only a couple of points of getting out. So
let's hope they stay up.
Yeah, I think Bradford. I think Bradford are in a lot of trouble. I think Walsall are as well. They're just not picking up any points. But
and I hear Fleetwood had a knockout performance at the weekend.
Boom. We should get some sound effects for your jokes, like a drum beat.
Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
The police blocked his
Did you see
exit. They got in front of his car.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy. A headbutt, I've read. But anyway, League Two, Chris.
League Two. So maybe a slight surprise, but leaders Lincoln only drew with Cheltenham at home. But that it was enough to get the promotion to League One. So congratulations to Lincoln. They obviously now look to win the league overall as well, which is probably looking very much likely that they will.
I think they need 3 points, don't they?
Yep,
they need just one more win.
Yeah. The ever-changing second and third spots have changed again. Bury have moved up into second after they won 2-0 against Colchester. Mansfield have slipped to third as they only drew with Northampton, and MK Dons are now down to fourth. They lost to Tranmere, and Tranmere are now only 2 points off of third place. So they're really mounting.
They've come from nowhere as well, really, haven't they? They've
one of the best forms in the league at the moment, Tranmere. And like I said, 2 points off third spot. Now they're really, looking in a handy position. Forest Green recorded a win. They're in sixth, and even themselves, they're only 6 points off of third as well. Forest Green now, so they might mount a small chance of automatic promotion, but they're well into the playoff positions now. So even if they don't make the automatic promotion, they're very much likely that they'll get playoff place. And Exeter make up the last playoff place in seventh. They beat Port Vale by 2-0. Carlisle, who sit just outside the playoffs, are now 4 points behind as well. So there's a 4-point cushion for Exeter in seventh now. So yeah, it's getting very close, and no change at the bottom. All 3 teams lost. So still only one team for survival. So that's between Yeovil, Macclesfield, and Notts County.
It's definitely 2 of those 3, isn't it? Because the gap to Cambridge is 6 points.
6 points now. So,
but it's interesting because Macclesfield and Yeovil sort of both play mid-table, don't they? Yeovil have got Crewe in 14th, and Macclesfield have got Northampton in 15th.
Yeah, and Yeovil have got to play Bury last game of the season as well. And Bury obviously trying to get that automatic promotion play. So
yeah,
Yeovil probably got the slightest hardest run in.
What's your gut feel, Chris?
They're down.
Yeovil. Do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, always the optimist.
Yeah. It's sad, but
I'm going to go the other way. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to stay
they're
up.
going to need. They're letting kids in for free on Monday. I see again, so they're trying to drum up people to get people there to support them. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, big weekend for the EFL, isn't it? 'Cause they got 2 lots of games, most teams. So.
Well, I'm going to stick my neck out and say if Macclesfield win or pick up 3 or 4 points over the weekend and Yeovil pick up nothing, then I think it's done.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep the faith.
Over.
I'm going to keep the faith a little bit.
The only saving grace for Yeovil is that they do have the best goal difference out of the 3 teams. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But well, that was the EFL. I'm sure next week we'll probably have more ups and downs, promotion and relegations to talk about. So that's the end of part 1. Part 2, we'll be back with a bit on predictions. Our special topic, which is about one of the EFL leagues, the Championship, and how hard it is to come back up into the Premier League once you have gone down. And I will try and guess Pete's teaser. So we'll be back in part 2.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. As we do every week, we're just going to give you a quick update on the predictions challenge. We've only got a handful of rounds left, really, I think. So last week, Mark was our guest. He scored a very respectable 20 points, but Chris got 25, all by the last game, Chris. So you got the score right.
I got 5 out of 6 right.
Yeah, you did.
Very good.
But yeah, 25 points. Myself and Mark on 20. So this week, Karen is our guest. So she'll be the next up to see if she can topple Jamie. The trophy, Chris, is in your hands, I believe. It's under lock and key.
It's in
your home.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there. It's here. Everything's a little bit more real about the predictions challenge, which
someone other than me is going to have their hands on it.
Yeah, I wonder if I'll get to hold it before it goes out to the winner. I do hope so. It has the same meaning to me as like the World Cup does to professional footballers, I suppose. That's the only sort of relation I can make to it.
I've had to build a beautiful trophy just to put it in.
Is it true you've got police sort of guard at your door?
I can see it from there, mate.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, it's the talk of Yeovil, isn't it? It's the talk of Yeovil that people are paying to come in and have a look at it.
I will be at Hewish Park on Monday with the trophy. You can come and have your picture taken with it.
Oh, what bad taste that would be if it was the day Yeovil got relegated.
Yeah, here's a trophy. You can have a picture with it.
You turned up with a predictions challenge trophy. Anyway,
sure I'd get it scored off.
We move on. So. Special topic this week is around relegation from the Premier League, I guess, because we've got two confirmed teams, Fulham and Huddersfield, both going down. I think it's almost like going into the abyss of abyss of football sometimes. Because
completely honest with you, I didn't realise how many teams in that league have actually been in the Premier League until I actually sat there and counted.
Well, I've got some stats for you, Chris. I don't know if we had a stat alarm. This is where we would use it. This doesn't help to answer the question, I don't think. But you know me, I like a number. So there's a total of, since the Premier League started, there's a total of, and I've got to be careful with this as well because I don't want to reveal any of the answers to the teaser question.
No, go ahead with it.
So I'm just going to give you numbers. There's a total of 41 different teams have been relegated from the Premier League since it started, and from those 41, only 11 are actually in the Premier League this season, and only 8 of those teams have ever been promoted back to the Premier League. So roughly only 20% of the teams that have been relegated have ever come back up.
Oh, wow.
So the teams that after relegation have never come back into the Premier League include Oldham, Wimbledon, Sheffield Wednesday, Coventry, Leeds, Portsmouth, Reading and Aston Villa. So after relegation, they never came back up. But teams that did come back up include like Norwich, Ipswich, Swindon, Sheffield. Oh, no, that's the wrong list. No, apologies. So it's people like Watford, West Ham, Wolves, Southampton, Newcastle, Burnley, those sort of teams that have come back up. So I think it just shows how
difficult.
You think Villa, I think Villa went down 15-16 season. Leeds went down in 2003.
Great.
It was that long ago.
Was that the year that they were in the Champions League as well? Was it that year? 2002, 2003?
Not sure. I think it may have been slightly earlier.
Oh, right.
But the surprising thing with that is that they haven't been back up since.
Crazy, isn't it? So they went down to
time.
They actually went down to League One as well, didn't they? I vaguely remember. But
yes, but that happens to a lot of them.
Because when you get relegated, so you get a one-off payment, don't you? From
you get parachute payments.
Yeah.
I think it's for 2 years. I think it's for 2 seasons.
Okay. And is that's there to help you adjust to life in the Championship and to, I suppose, any money that you lose from being to the Premier League?
I think there's a number of reasons. I mean, a lot of football clubs these days, they will put into players' contracts about relegation and any sort of. You won't find a lot of players that will hold their Premier League salary if they get relegated and stay with their club. So, but I think that if you've got football clubs that are in the Premier League that are living sort of off the TV rights and things like that, if you drop to the Championship and you lose that, I'm not sure clubs would still. No. So I think you probably have a Leeds situation where there would be so much issues financially that the parachute payments sort of give them that sort of 12-24 month buffer to get themselves sorted. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I'd say that's probably what it's around.
Would you say that the Championship is probably the most competitive second tier league in the world?
Absolutely.
I went through about 7 or 8 different European second tier leagues, and there aren't hardly any sort of big what we would call Premier League teams in those leagues. But when you look at the size of the clubs in the Championship, it's unbelievable. Like they could, like, this is outrageous to say, but you could probably say at least half of those teams in the Championship at the moment could give it a good shot of survival in the Premier League.
Yeah, they could do, but I think when you're comparing it to other leagues around Europe, I think if you look at even just sort of your Aston Villas, your Nottingham Forest, your Leeds, the sort of the success that these teams have had domestically and the success that these teams have had in Europe as well.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any sort of caliber of teams in second tiers around Europe that have maybe had the same sort of level of success. I think that's why, I'm not plugging it again, but we've got a blog on the website about the Championship and about how it's one of the, if not the most exciting leagues in the world, in world football.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
The level of teams that you've got in that division, it just shows that you can't. It's such a difficult league to predict. You can never sort of say that the 2 or the 3 teams that are going to get promoted in any given season in the Championship.
I remember when Yeovil were in the Championship, 5-6 seasons ago. Some of the teams that they were coming up against, like Leeds, I remember going to watch them play Leeds. It was unbelievable. And teams that have you think they were playing teams that had just been relegated from the Premier League as well. It was crazy. I've seen Derby, I've seen Leeds, Sheffield United, I've seen loads and loads of teams that you would never think that Yeovil would be able to play, and
No, but I think
because of the vast,
but the difficulty. This is the whole thing with how difficult it is to come back up. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Bradford are the lowest placed team in English football at the moment, like sort of ex Premier League side. So they're bottom of League One. So I remember when not that long ago, Bradford knocked Chelsea out the FA Cup, and when they're in the Premier League, I mean, they were given a good account of themselves. But it just sort of shows. I think Sunderland's an example. Coventry, Portsmouth. I know some of them have had sort of financial difficulties and stuff. Yeah, Wigan, all these teams, Reading. If you think about how good Reading were, a decent established Premier League side.
You're going into a second Premier League, aren't you? With the amount of teams that have played in the Premier League, the Championship, you are playing mostly.
You are
Premier League.
You are. It's, What is it you think? What is it you think that? My thinking on Stoke to win the Championship. That's my prediction for Stoke to win the Championship, and a lot of it was because they were such an established Premier League side. They were playing Premier League teams week in, week out. They were very established. They were getting wins against the top 6 sides. I just thought they're going to go down to the Championship. They kept the nucleus of their squad together. Yeah. If you think who they've got, Butland, Shawcross, Joe Allen, Tom Ince, Afobe, James McLean. I mean, they've got all these players. I just thought they would be the best equipped to come straight back up. And if anything,
they just didn't realise.
But they've been closer to relegation.
They took it for granted,
But they put a manager in there. They put a manager in there that's used to sort of Championship, League One level football. I don't know what it is about that league that it just swallows you up. I think for the purposes of what the topic we're talking about, when you're talking about Fulham and Huddersfield, I don't think either of them will come back straight away.
No. I think the problem is with that league is if you don't go straight back up, that's when you're going to struggle. I think with the Championship, I think if you get relegated from the Premier League, your best chance is to go back up in the first season of the Championship. Otherwise, like you said, you'll just get swallowed by that league because you'll have more potential Premier League clubs coming back into that league, filtering back in, plus potential old Premier League teams coming back up from League One. You every week you potentially will be playing an old Premier League team.
It's just at a varying degree. I mean, I know that if you go, I mean, Fulham, for example, and I mean, I'm pretty sure people like Mitrovic, Sessegnon, Chambers. No, people like that probably won't stay, but they will probably bring people in who are more accustomed to that. And you've got to think that, I mean, although Fulham bought a lot of players in, that the nucleus of their side was so good in the Championship.
I think Fulham have probably got the better chance of the.
Yeah, they have, but
as long as they keep, like you said,
I think if you look at Cardiff, Brighton, I'm just sort of trying to draw a line in the Premier League table to say who I think would. I think Newcastle would probably be all right. Teams like Bournemouth, but Burnley. I mean, honestly, if Burnley went down to the Championship, I know they probably won't. But if they were to, I'm not convinced they would come straight back up.
I'd say there's better clubs in the Championship than Burnley at this present time.
Yeah, maybe there is. It's just such a difficult situation to.
Yeah.
Let's say Cardiff or Brighton. So let's just say that the final relegation place is taken by one of those teams, teams, I don't think any of those three would come straight back up.
No.
Any of the three that go down, I don't think will come straight back up. I just think that division is so difficult, and it's not like the Premier League where you can say there's 6 teams. There's one of 6 teams in the take Leicester out because that was a bit of a fluke, but there's a core of 6 teams that are always going to win that league year in, year out. If you look at the Championship, that doesn't happen. I know teams go up from the Championship, so no one's ever going to win it 2 years in a row, but it just doesn't happen. I just find it interesting as to what that reason is. I'm not sure it's purely financial. I just think it's the level of football, the games, level, the Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday.
You're playing a lot more games as well, aren't you? You're playing potentially, obviously, league game wise, you're playing 8 games more, and then if you think you get into the playoffs. And then the playoff final.
The playoffs is just a lottery. I couldn't pick a playoff winner. I think it's that tight. I mean, you would your head sort of goes towards Villa but is that because of the history of the club? I mean, they got to the final last year and lost.
It's anyone's game, isn't it?
It is. And then you think of the teams coming the other way. I mean, Norwich, are they equipped enough to stay in the league? I mean, Wolves have shown that it can be done this year, but they've got amazing.
The thing is, for Norwich, they've been back and forth a couple of times, haven't they, in the last sort of 10 years?
They have. They're a bit of a yo-yo.
They've never really managed to establish themselves in that league. But maybe they try something different.
Middlesbrough's the one that got me thinking, because if you think like that they still are. They're such a well-run club, and I always remember them getting sort of deep and into the finals of the League Cup and FA Cup runs and things like that. And they've been gone a few years now, and sort of haven't really pushed sort of to being that close to coming back up. It's a difficult division.
Leeds haven't been in the Premier League since 2003, which is unbelievable. They've been in.
It's a funny stat. It's the 4 that I picked out. So Villa went down in 15-16 and haven't come back. Leeds was 03-04. Blackburn 2011-2012. Portsmouth. I mean, if you think of the players Portsmouth had, they won the FA Cup. Obviously, when Harry Redknapp was there, etc. 2009-10.
Yeah.
So it's nearly 10 years ago Portsmouth went down, and they haven't come back up. And if you think that they dropped 2 divisions, and I mean they're not guaranteed. It looks like they're bound. It did, and it looks like they're bound for the playoffs in League One this year, and that's not going to be easy. So, it's another team that's sort of, it is, but you only look at people like Bolton, QPR, Ipswich, Swindon, Oldham, all these I know they were there or thereabouts when the Premier League sort of first started, but financially these teams are nowhere near getting anywhere near the Premier League again.
No, not for years to come.
No, absolutely. Charlton were a decent Premier League side, and now they're sort of, again, they're in the playoff picture, but I can't see them getting back up into the Premier League anytime soon. Predictions will be good next year, Chris, because we'll include our Championship predictions.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, but so interesting topic.
Difficult league to get out of, but an exciting league. I think that's the sort of.
Yeah, I wouldn't be adverse to support. I mean, this is going to sound like I'm a glory hunter, but I am a Norwich fan when it comes to the Champions.
They're top.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I don't want it to sound like I'm a glory hunter, but
I'm a Perth fan, mate. They've just won the league.
They have, yeah. But my granddad was from Norfolk, and he was a Norwich fan, so I take it from there. I'd love to see Norwich come back up.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll move on to the teaser answer. So the teaser was the free Premier League teams that have won the league and been relegated. Is that correct?
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
just very quickly. Barcelona 3-0.
I said to Lewis it'd be 3-0.
Looks like that one's over. Sorry, Chris. Carry on.
So, I think Blackburn are one of them, I believe.
Blackburn, correct.
Okay. Leicester.
Correct.
The third one is the one that's.
The third one is the one that I struggled with as well.
You struggled with it as well.
I did.
I don't even know if this team have won the league. I can't remember. But I'm drawn to them for some reason. I will say Newcastle.
Chris, have you ever known Newcastle to win the Premier League?
This is what I mean. I don't know why I kept thinking of Newcastle. That's all I kept thinking about, Newcastle.
It's not Newcastle. It's going to surprise you. It's Man City.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they have been relegated.
Man City were relegated from one of the first 4 seasons of the Premier League, I think. They were relegated one of the years that United won it.
Oh, good year for them, huh?
But you wouldn't have thought it now. But yeah, that was the one I couldn't get. So Man City, Leicester, and Blackburn are the 3 teams that have won it, but also been relegated from it. Honestly,
no, I'm going. All right,
Pete is good. Pete's good at these.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, that's it for this week. Just a few things. We have got a poll on Twitter at the moment for our player of the season. So we're going to do a sort of an awards thingy. So all the details are on Facebook and Twitter about that. But there is a poll at the moment running on Twitter for player of the season. So I'll tweet that out again at some point this week.
Thanks to everyone who's voted already. I think we've had over 150 votes so far, which is really good.
So that's one thing. Secondly, on our YouTube channel we've almost 2,000 views on our videos. Well,
we are.
Podcast, should we say? So we're very surprised because it's over the last sort of month or so, it's kind of dramatically grown. So thank you for everyone that has listened to the podcast.
Please subscribe. Please, if you like what you hear, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Yeah, I don't think we ever thought we'd get to that sort of audience when we first started. So it's great to nearly be at 2,000 views on YouTube, obviously on iTunes and Spotify as well. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's listening. And like I say, if you like what you hear, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. It's all appreciated. Keeps us going.
So that is it. So anything else, Rich?
No, not really. Just the website. Go to the website. Read the blogs. I think what would be a really good idea, actually, is maybe it's something we should put out on social media, but the sort of blog thing is something that I think is really good and something that really works for us to put our views out on certain things. But I'd absolutely open it up. If there's anyone that is listening or listens regularly that wants to have a shot at writing something, I mean, we get quite a few hits on the website, Chris. I think you'll agree.
Oh yeah.
Maybe 100 or so a month. So there is an audience for it. If anyone wants to write anything, and obviously we can put it on the website, there's not a problem. We'd happily invite that if anyone wants to have a go. That's it, I think. Cool. Yeah, go to the website.
So we'll be back next week. So we'll see you then.
Yep. See you next week.